This is why your childhood's keeping you broke. I'm Dom Jackson, David A. Media, and this is the 7-Day Scoop Show, a weekly show where I document my career and decisions that I'm making. If you're a venture trying to pursue, where I use my story, my ventures to help teach and motivate you. Now, third week in Houston, in the process of getting my van with car keys express. And it's funny how many things you don't realize are things you think are just truth and staples based on what you learned, as opposed to things that aren't always that being the case. With that, I have some time out here being in a different van for so long. I'm seeing all different cultures, different little things that they do, whether it be the speed of how they do things, how they talk about things, the problem solving to get the solution that they want. And each van is a little different, but get the same result. And with that, I started thinking about, in the van I spent the most time in St. Louis, I learned a lot about the game, how to program things, how I use certain machines more, my thought process with certain machines. But being in other vans, I just realized people don't do it the same thing to get the same result. Your view on the world is shaped so much by your beginning years and how you view life, how you view problems, how you view yourself. A lot of that comes from those original years forming who you are. You might have some thought patterns, ideas, or processes that aren't really true. They're just true because it was how you learned coming up. For instance, in the van scenario, there's one machine that we have, the Smart Pro, that I use pretty often. That's because the person who trained me used that machine very often. But there's a couple different other ways you can use other machines to get the job done. But he just liked using that one because he used it a lot. And I like using that one because he taught me how to use it a lot. And just thinking about that is like, how many other things are you holding on to, or am I holding on to, that I learned from someone else, whoever else in your life, that you hold on to that thing to because you were taught that way? And if being broke is one of the issues you're trying to solve, then how many ideas are you holding on to from people that were around you before? A lot of your ideas are just implanted to you because it was someone else's solution to that problem, but it didn't have to stay the solution that you end up keeping. That was a big realization this week. As far as a van and a team, we ended up scoring 1,500 out of 2,000 points. I personally did 385 out of 500. So it's my lowest week out of the past 3 weeks out here. But overall, my past 3 weeks combination has been higher. So I'm increasing my percentages, which is good, because that's one of the goals of what I'm shooting for. So now it's just like figuring out how to keep tweaking things to get to that next level. And, with that being said, one of the biggest realizations that I had, it's funny because it took me this long to get here, but the word's still gonna help out people a lot, is that, in order to be a leader, to be a game changer, to be, a superstar, to help out with the process of like a real leader of what it takes, you're gonna have to change the temperature of yourself and everyone around you. And what I mean by that is your presence needs to make everyone better. Me being out here, I did a better job personally of my own sales. I've increased, I'm like on a higher streak. I'm moving, and I've done good with the actual servicing of things, but I didn't make everyone else around me better. I didn't like stand out that much, which is good to realize, because so what is the next step, the next version of like what that looks like? Am I leading more people to doing more sales things in the morning? I keep more people in line, because I have to be able to, one, produce that 500 points for myself, and then two, being able to help people break their habits so they can get the same amount as well and lead to that, 2,000 point goal. And saying it out loud and realizing that, like, I was, most of the time I was there doing things, like I was doing my job, but to be a leader, you need to be doing your job and making everyone else better do their job. And that's like the gap of really where I am. We had a meeting of all of us together and we were talking about, where we are. And like on a scale of 1 to 10, how far we think we are. And I figured I was about an 8. I got the baselines and everything down. That next step I need is that it factor of like, hey, cool. Are you taking enough initiative to make sure that the people around you are doing better too? And everyone around me is like either close to where I am or have been there before me, so they like have a lot of the process set up. They know things, but there's a reason why, certain people haven't progressed and certain people have. And that next factor is like, hey, I'm gonna take charge of this and lead the charge, because we're going to, quote unquote war in this scenario that we're going to win. And it's funny that I just didn't realize that until now, because I was just so like, yeah, let's do this, let's get the job done. But that's not going to change unless I change. And sometimes you have to have the idea first before you can, make the actions to get it done. It just takes a little bit for you to be like, oh, I should be helping out with that culture. One of the other big moments that I think is really important for change and for preparation, being inside the van, we have a lot of things there. A lot of the tools and machines that we use come with the van already there, but there's other things you can buy on your own with your own money in order to get the job done faster. Those little computer chips that we use for the keys, sometimes if we are not the right chips inside of a key or something happens, we just have our own personal supply. And I needed one. I had a scenario where I needed one. And our mentor right here was like, I went to ask him for a chip and he was like, yeah, I can give you one, no problem. He was like, how are you gonna come to the war without any bullets? And I sat there and I was like, that those 2 points I was saying being 8 out of 10 really hit me. I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. I need to invest more into my business, even at this level, because that's the same habits I'm gonna have for my next level. So now it's like, getting a new vest, getting some more chips, getting some other devices for myself. I'm doing this, like I'm in the game, like I'm in. Taking that initiative to invest into your own business is a very common thing, but showing that future sight and mentality to go into doing that at the current level before you have one is what the people are like looking for when you're trying to stand out from the crowd. Because all right, you're willing to put your own money into this now. Like I see you're serious, because they're fronting the money for you to get your own band. So it's just like it's a way to stand out from the crowd, and it shows in your mind that like you're really invested into this. So that was another tweak that really happened. Preparing and investing yourself into whatever you're doing, showing you got some skin in the game, will help the people that are around you that know you want to do it see that you are going to do it, and yourself, because like now you're putting your time, attention, and money into it, just making sure your actions follow that as well. Another great insight: team culture. So with us, we all end up living together out here most of the time. So we live, work, travel together, very community based. And now we're working on, they just recently kind of re-implemented. They have the meetings in the morning, so we'll practice spreads together, kind of go over some pain points for the day and just assess everything. But now we started going over some of our training systems at the end of the day. So we get done work, come back in like 9, 30, 45 minutes, working together and just going over how to be more systematic in what we're doing, whether it be the pitch, the programming. And it's really having more of a learning culture together. I think it's super important too. Because a team on and off the field is going to get the best results. If you look at the players in a sports team, whoever's practicing more and more strategically is going to get the best results no matter what. So now I get to see like what that looks like. Really following to like that startup culture of like, just grind, get through the grit and figure it out. That was super cool to see. And implementing that into future decisions for my team going forward. With that, another big benefit I saw being with this team is that I'm learning how things at different levels. So, I'm me, somebody in the process of getting the van, but then there's other vans here, people who've gotten the van since I've started in the business. And then there's like our leader who like has 5 vans under his belt, which is like the next process. So I can see what that like. And I get to see myself in all these different positions, because technically I'm in one, but the goal is to be in all of them, because my goal is to get 10 and have 10 successful ones that I'm running and operating. And one of the biggest ones that I'm like in the process of looking at now, which is cool to see, because I'm trying to get one van for myself, but then I get to watch this next part go down too, is that when you have one successful van and one successful team, each one of them ends up getting their own van. So let's say it's a 3-person successful team, they become 3 individual vans now. So you had one van with 3 rock stars, but now you have 3 vans with 1 rock star, and then you have like all the people that work in those vans underneath them. So I'm getting to watch that process of like, all right, we've grown, boom, we expanded the territory, we expanded the market, but now we have to make sure these new vans are performing like the old vans were, and that means we have to build our new teams at that level. So this is like that next stage of growth where it's like, oh cool, like I'm like in the process of getting mine, let me get mine done, which is like, I'm going through my process, it's tough, but then it's like, cool, I got mine, I'm here, I have my van, how do I have my team be successful now? Like boom, I got my team, boom, that's step 2. So like I got my van, Now I got my van and my team's doing successful. Boom. Then it's like van, team successful, and then boom, getting your next van out. Boom. And I have 2 vans I'm about to be operating, my van and someone else's van that I have doing that. And how do I make both of our teams successful? And just like the layers, the levels of how to like increase the levels of the game. Super excited to get to watch that go down. So it's been a great 3 weeks out here in Houston. A lot of insights, but I think the biggest thing is that knowing where you get your ideas from, and understanding that certain things are just things that you were taught from how you were trained or how you were raised, depending on what lens it goes through. And that's going to be keeping you in the position that you are mentally wise, because you're only going to solve the problems the way you knew how to solve them from how you were taught. So as always, take it one step at a time. You'll get there day by day.